Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Jeffrey Epstein Show. I'm your host, Bobbycapucci, and this is a morning update. On today's episode, we're going to talk about Chef Adam Perry Lang's recent appearance on the Joe Rogan Experience. Now, for those of you who know me, you know that Joe Rogan is, in my opinion, the best in the business, and his podcast is my absolute favorite. He has so many great people on that podcast, so many shows that are educational and entertaining that it's very rare that I come across an episode that I don't like, that I don't find engaging or entertaining. But that is where we find ourselves today. Now, I am shocked, to be honest with you, that Rogan didn't dig deep when it comes to Epstein, considering all of the Epstein content Rogan usually has on the podcast, and it's obvious that Rogan is interested in the case. So it's very disappointing to me to see that he didn't really go after Adam Perry Lang and ask him the hard questions, because there are some hard questions that Mr. Lang definitely needs to answer, right? And you would think Joe Rogan, of all people, would have delved into that realm, would have dipped their toes into that realm at the very least. But no, we didn't get any of it. I mean, it's great you want to talk about steaks, etc., restaurants, blah, 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 blah. But come on, Joe. Really? I know that you and Chef Lang are probably friends outside of the show, and that's cool. I respect that. But at the end of the day, you have to put that aside if you're going to have this guy on the podcast, right? A good portion of your audience wants to hear about Jeffrey Epstein. So I'm pretty disappointed in the fact that Rogan didn't go after Adam Lang like he should have and didn't ask him the hard questions. And it seems like a lot of other people are also disappointed in that fact. So we have an article today from uprocks.com, and it is about Adam Perry Lang's appearance on the Joe Rogan Experience. The headline: Joe Rogan's most recent podcast guest and the lack of questions about his past have raised some eyebrows. The author of this piece from Uprocks is Zach Johnston. If you follow the Joe Rogan Experience, even in a passive way, you'll know how often the mysterious death of Jeffrey Epstein comes up. For sure, I pretty much religiously listen to Joe Rogan's podcast while I'm hiking and climbing and on adventures, and he talks about Epstein all the time. And for the most part, Rogan's awesome. I would say 99.5% of the time, Rogan is just incredible with the way he formats his show and how he goes about his business. But in this case, I really think that he missed a solid chance here to really dig in and get some answers from the chef. You can simply Google Joe Rogan Experience Jeffrey Epstein, and pages of clips of Rogan and different guests spanning dozens of episodes will pop up. If you listen to Rogan a little more closely, you'll also know whenever Epstein does come up, the infamous Lolita Express comes up too, Epstein's private plane. Rogan usually brings it up in relation to former President Bill Clinton by saying, while emphasizing every single syllable, Bill Clinton rode on the Lolita Express no less than 26 times. Well, yeah, why shouldn't he bring that up? It's like the author of this article is mad that he would bring up Bill Clinton. I don't understand. I just don't understand what the whole rallying around Bill Clinton is these days. I mean, the guy's been credibly accused of by how many women, and still he's like somebody that people are rallying around to defend. And really what that comes down to, folks, is tribalism, right? It comes down to our side versus their side. We're going to protect our side so it doesn't look like we're all bad. It's so stupid. And you know what? Not to digress and jump off topic for a second. Well, kind of the same topic, but lately, on Twitter, on a bunch of threads that I've been tagged in, I've been seeing a lot of partisan tribalism, and it's a bunch of bullshit. If you tag me in one of those posts with your tribalism and your nonsense, do not expect a response from me. I'm not gonna talk about any of that BS. There is plenty of scumbags to go around on both sides of the aisle, all right? There's no good guys here. Everybody's a gray character, folks. Come on now. Worth noting, Rogan rarely brings up how many times current President Donald Trump was on that very same plane. So you have to engage in whataboutism. right? So if you bring up one person, you have to bring up the other. No, that's not how this works, okay? We talk about each person and we move forward and then talk about the next person. We don't have to use whataboutism, okay? Just because you bring up Clinton, you don't have to bring up Trump. And just because you bring up Trump, you don't have to bring up Clinton, okay? They're plenty scummy on their own, folks. Which makes this week's guest a curious pick for the podcast host. Rogan welcomed famed Los Angeles steakhouse chef Adam Perry Lang, APL Restaurant, to talk about steak and how Lang's ultra-high-end restaurant is faring during the lockdown. Lang is a renowned chef, and Rogan loves meat, so that bit holds water. Okay, well, yeah, he is a renowned chef, no doubt about it. And Rogan not only loves meat, he's a prolific hunter. He does a lot of bow hunting, if you're not familiar with Joe Rogan. So yeah, I could see why he won't look. I could understand why Rogan would have a chef on the show, and I could even understand why he'd have Adam Perry Lang on the show. But what I don't understand is the lack of hard questions. That is so un-Rogan-like that I don't even know what's going on there. Like, did he have a new strain of weed that he was blasting before the show or during the show, and it made him forget? I mean, I want to give Joe Rogan the benefit of the doubt more than anybody, honestly, because all kidding aside, his podcast is something that it's an incredible resource for the most part. So it's just disappointing when you see stuff like this and you see that Adam Perry Lang was on there and he wasn't really quizzed the way he should be. But Adam Perry Lang worked for Epstein, and Rogan somehow didn't bring this up a single time during the 2-hour interview. Instead, they talked about steak, and that's pretty much it. Look, I get it. Again, I get it. Why Rogan wanted to have Adam Perry Lang on the show, steaks, blah, blah, blah. I understand. But come on, Joe. There was nobody else that you could have picked to be on the podcast. It had to be Adam Perry Lang. There's nobody else that cooks a mean steak. I mean, especially considering just recently Adam Perry Lang was brought up in the papers from The Sun, in the documents from The Sun, one of the 70 people. So you would think Rogan would at the very least have a couple of questions, right? Look, I have to tell you, friend or not, if you come on to my podcast or my show and you had anything to do with Jeffrey Epstein, you can expect I am talking the most hardball, digging questions you can possibly imagine. And it won't be done in a nice way, to be honest with you, right? Friend or not, you have to answer for your transgressions. You have to answer for your time with Jeffrey Epstein. I mean, has anybody asked this guy about it? Has he ever come out and done a full-on interview about his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein or what he saw while he was Epstein's chef? Look, there's a lot there. I mean, look, at the end of the day, he can end it all. Adam Perry Lang can end it all by coming out and doing an interview and explaining his role. Go to the FBI and tell them, look, this is what I saw. Let's get on record. Let's go on record. I know that's what I would do if I was in his shoes. But no, none of these people seem to care enough about the survivors to do that. All these people want is for this to go away. They don't want it to ruin their public image and affect their ability to earn. That's all they care about. They don't care about these survivors, and it's sickening to me. It was confirmed that Lang spent considerable time traveling with Epstein and his crew to all the spots where Epstein was allegedly flying in underage girls to attend lavish parties he threw for celebrities, politicians, billionaires, and royalty. Lang himself admitted he was on some of the flights and worked in Epstein's homes, but told Eater in 2019 that he was unaware of any wrongdoing going on all around him. Oh yeah, I'm sure. That's what they all said, right? And Eater, that was the publication that chased him down. None of these legacy media outlets thought it was appropriate to try and get an interview with Jeffrey Epstein's private chef who was flying all over the world with him on the plane, doing Lord knows what. Nobody thought that would be an interesting interview, huh? Nobody thought that some hard questions should be asked. Boy, that legacy media sure cares about us. What an absolute joke the legacy media is. An absolute dumpster fire. My role was limited to meal preparation, Lang told Eater. I was unaware of the depraved behavior and have great sympathy and admiration for the brave women who have come forward. Well, have you come forward, Mr. Lang? Have you shown great courage by coming forward, Mr. Lang? The answer is no. Of course not. None of these guys have come forward because guess what? All of these people have something to hide, in my opinion. Every single one of these people was an enabler. Every single one of these people that was palling around with Jeffrey Epstein is under the microscope at this point. Lang hasn't offered any more information since the conversation. In the years after Lang worked for Epstein at his New Mexico ranch, Palm Beach compound, New York penthouse, and private Caribbean island, he's become the toast of the Los Angeles food scene, working for Oprah, Mario Batali, and Jimmy Kimmel. The latter is such a close friend that Kimmel let Lang live in his beach house after his recent separation and divorce. Oh, isn't that nice? Wasn't Jimmy Kimmel up there screaming down from his ivory tower about the rest of us and Kavanaugh and all these other people who were accused of sexual assault? Yet he has this Jeffrey Epstein associate living with him at his house? This is what I mean about these hypocrites, folks, all right? All of these hypocrites are ridiculous. I am so against hero worshiping that I can't even begin to explain to you how detrimental to people I think it is. You should not be worshiping any of these famous people as heroes. They are all gray characters, and they are all capable of incredible evil like any other human being. None of these people should be put on a pedestal, especially a guy like Jimmy Kimmel. Give me a break with this guy. Why Joe Rogan, a man fairly obsessed with Jeffrey Epstein up to this point, chose not to ask a single question about Epstein while sitting across from one of his former personal chefs who was regularly on the Lolita Express leaves a pretty big question mark. And he's receiving a lot of ire from Rogan's fans in and on social media and the comment section of the episode's YouTube page. So there's a couple of comments from people that they posted. One is from Pure Optics. Shout out to Pure Optics from Twitter. So these are, people that are asking questions of why these questions weren't asked to the chef Adam Perry Lang. And they're good questions, right? It's legit to ask why Joe Rogan did not ask him anything about Jeffrey Epstein. All right, that is a legit question to ask. It's a legit criticism, and that's coming from one of Joe Rogan's biggest fans. I'll just straight up honest with you. The guy is an incredible story as far as a podcaster goes, and his show is just amazing. So it's disappointing to see stuff like this, right? So the criticism is warranted, and I think that going forward, if anybody has this Adam Perry Lang sitting down in front of them, you have to ask these questions, right? You have to ask this guy what he knows, what he was involved in, even if he just gives you a canned answer and, one of those prepared responses. At the very least, you did your job as the host of the show by trying to dig a little deeper. Instead, they just talk about steak, et cetera, et cetera. It's one of the, honestly, this is one of the worst episodes that I've ever listened to on the Joe Rogan Experience. And what are there, 1,470 episodes or something like that? So, I understand that you don't always get it right as a podcast host or a content creator. Not everything is a home run. Sometimes the content is But when it comes to situations like this, and the fact that Rogan has been so interested in the Epstein case, it's just mind-boggling to think that he didn't have any questions for Adam Perry Lang in regards to his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. Obviously, no one has to be fully accountable for their associates or employers, but this topic seems like a pretty large elephant to leave standing in the room. Of course, nobody is responsible for all of their friends or their boss or anything like that. Nobody's saying that, okay? What I'm saying is this man was obviously around. He was on the planes. He had firsthand knowledge. He witnessed things firsthand. To say he saw nothing, you'd have to be real naive to believe that, in my opinion. So it's warranted to ask this man, what have you seen? What do you know? But Joe Rogan took a different approach in this podcast, and it's a disappointing situation. Because usually Rogan would be all over it, right? So you can understand why people are disappointed, and you can understand why people have questions. I would hope that in the future, if Perry Lang ever comes back onto the show, that Rogan would ask him some harder questions and really, travel down that road, because the audience wants to know. Everybody wants to know what Adam Perry Lang saw and what he can add to the case. So he should really come forward, talk to the investigators, and clear his name if he wasn't involved. But again, the only outlet that has chased him down is Eater in 2019. This isn't a story for the legacy media. Nobody in the legacy media wants to talk to this guy. I mean, think about the resources that the legacy media wastes on dumb shit on a regular basis. But this guy, who was a personal chef on the planes, named in the documents, nobody wants to talk to him. Rogan doesn't even ask him any questions. In my opinion, none of that is okay. Adam Perry Lang must be questioned, and he must answer why he was around Epstein for so long and how he can possibly say he did not see anything out of the ordinary. I am sorry, but I do not believe that, and I don't think anybody who is following this case believes that. We know that all of these people have the same excuse. Oh, I didn't see anything. I wasn't around anything. Blah, 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 blah. And they've been allowed to get away with that. No hard questions. Nobody's challenged that. Everybody's just been like, oh, okay, he said he didn't know anything. So he's good. He's good to go. It's like the Biden campaign coming out and saying, well, the Times investigated this and they gave us a pass. No, that's not good enough. Hard questions need to be asked. And unfortunately, on this episode of the Joe Rogan Experience, that was not accomplished. Let's hope going forward that Adam Perry Lang is questioned in the proper manner by authorities or the legacy media, and let's see just exactly what Adam Perry Lang knows. If you'd like to contact me, you can do that at bobbycapucci@protonmail.com. That's BOBBYCAPUCCI@protonmail.com. You can also find me on Twitter at BOBBY_CAPUCCI. All right, folks, I'll be back later on with some more. Hope you all have a fantastic day.